There has been a seismic shift in the presidential campaign. The seas have begun to boil. The heavens have been momentarily jolted from alignment, and every so-called expert has been tossed into a maelstrom of uncertainty. Donald Trump has admitted he made a mistake. Yes, we're at the point where now this is actually news. But in light of his recent past, it is something of a notable moment, actually. As is the assertion by some, including the candidate, that the outcome of this election could be fixed well before November, forcing those with common sense to put aside the Hollywood-style ideas here and deal in reality of what it would take for such a thing to actually happen. And what will happen now that another jobs report claims there are more people working, when it also forgets to conveniently mention the tens of millions who are still without a gig and they've stopped looking? Your phone calls at 1-877-NEWSMAX. And what goes over 200 miles an hour that everybody wants? Answers galore without careening into partisanship. I'm Ed Berliner. This is the Hardline for Friday, August 5th, 2016.
Donald Trump is course correcting.
Paul Ryan's a good guy, actually.
Trump even writing what appears to be a factual correction, tweeting, "The plane I saw on television was a hostage plane in Geneva, Switzerland, not the plane carrying $400 million in cash going to Iran." For 2 days, even after his own campaign tried to set the record straight on this public video, Trump told supporters a different story.
I woke up yesterday and I saw $400 million being flown to Iran.
Trump's poll numbers have been in free fall after a week of high-profile gaffes on Ukraine, Iran, sexual harassment, and fights with the family of a fallen soldier and members of his own party. The latest McClatchy-Maris poll showing Hillary Clinton up by 15 points.
It is at moments such as these that even the most veteran watcher of all things political finds themselves taking a step back, leaning back in the chair, mulling over the moment, reconsidering everything before uttering a single phrase, because in this election cycle, it just doesn't happen. Those seeking to become our next president have become better at doubling and tripling down on the absurd, to the point of being awarded lifetime shares at a blackjack table in Las Vegas. Hillary Clinton can't come to grips with the fact that she made a mistake over her email server. And even when she does try to sneak in the apology and admittance, she still cannot properly repeat the words of investigators regarding their findings over the missing missives. Donald Trump, for his part, never gets to the apology stage because in his mind and that of his followers, he's never been wrong, not once. Not even when empirical evidence slaps at his statements. He refuses to back down and for 1 second admit he may have been, that W word that not even Arthur Fonzarelli could say. But wait, pause if you will. Put an ear to the winds and listen. Take a glance at the printed word. Prepare for the shocker. Donald Trump has admitted he made a mistake. A monumental moment that has caused a ripple through the election scene like none other over the last year. However, and the question has to be asked because it's obvious, is this too little, too late? And why should anybody believe it's sincere? We are indeed sincere in bringing to the Friday for those who can provide cogent answers with riffing, roiling, or regurgitating not necessary. No same old cliches spit out by those on other shows who get their script from central casting. And we will indeed mix it in with your phone calls and comments at 1-877-NEWSMAX. First up, the editor-in-chief at Opportunity Lives, John Hart, joined by the Republican strategist and professor at Georgetown University, Bradley Blakeman. Stage is set, gentlemen. Let's get to work. Let's see, Bradley. Donald Trump admits he didn't see the non-existent Iran money video. He didn't say he was not correct. And now we also have, he reportedly will endorse Paul Ryan tonight at a rally, just a couple of days after he said he didn't know if he could. Wait a minute, Brad, honestly. And from his supporters who want Donald Trump to win. Why should anybody believe that this is the last time we're going to hear this?
Well, I think the good news is apparently he's taking his medication. The fact that
you are okay. I want it on record. You're the first person to go there, young man. That did not come out of my mouth. Go ahead.
Now, look, Donald Trump has to change, and he can still be bombastic in his rallies, but he has to be more serious and sober and factually correct in his rhetoric and policy. And he only has a few weeks to do it in, because once we pass Labor Day and those polls in the battleground states are going to take hold, he's going to be in some serious trouble. So Donald Trump, the fact that he apologized over something so immaterial that caused such a catastrophic response shows, how deep in trouble this guy is. And I hope and pray that he's able to turn this around, because the alternative, I believe, is a lot worse than Donald Trump.
John, let's talk about turning this around, if you will, for a moment here. All right, and let's look at the polls here. Let's see, Hillary Clinton's lead over Donald Trump. Let's see, I'm looking at the polls right now. Here's one, the Wall Street Journal NBC News poll, a 9-point Hillary Clinton lead. Here's an FAU poll. Hillary Clinton leads Donald Trump with Hispanics by 48 points. Here's another one. Here's a poll that came out from NBC News, Wall Street Journal. When it comes down to African Americans, they back Hillary Clinton 91% to 1% sitting here. Look, we all want to get a decent race going here right now, John, but is it fair to say this is over? I mean, some people would basically wash their hands and say that, though those of us who are veteran political watchers know, come on, guys, don't we have time to make up for this?
Yeah, I mean, never say never this election cycle in particular, but he's in a very tough spot right now. And as Bradley alluded to, is there's only a limited time when you think about it before now in the election. And, the election is not rigged. I would disagree with Trump on that, and I think it's a waste of his time and energy to even make that case. But it's true that the Democrats start with a structural advantage in the Electoral College. The way I would describe this, it's like when you run a 100-yard dash to the Olympics, the Democrats only have to run 90 meters. And Republicans have to run 100, because the states that they have in their win category automatically are much bigger than the states we have. So Trump has to run a flawless campaign to even be competitive. And as we've seen the past week, it's been a disaster. So he has to hit the reset button in a major way and continue to really, I think what he should do is give the mea culpa, the end all mea culpas, and go through all the mistakes he's made. But
I got to stop you there, John, for a second, because you bring up a great point. I think a lot of people would like to see that. Certainly the Republicans would like to see that. The people at the top would like to see that. His followers would like to see that. But what is it that leads you or anybody else to believe, John, that he will hit this reset button? And I've got to point out that we've been here before.
Oh, yeah. Sadly, we've been here a lot of times before. I don't know. I think Trump is a very competitive person by nature. I think he knows that he's made a series of mistakes, and he's shown glimmers of humility throughout the campaign. Even in his acceptance speech, he made a comment where he received the support of the religious community and joked, "Not that I deserve it," and as an aside. And that shows a glimpse of humility that was unexpected and welcome, I thought, in his answer.
Okay, let me get to something else. You mentioned it here. You used the R word. I used the W word at the top. You used the R word, rigged, all right? Donald Trump has brought this up about the possibility of it being rigged. President Obama talked about this suggestion that these elections will be rigged, and the president said they are simply ridiculous. Here's what he said.
Of course the elections will not be rigged. What does that mean? The federal government doesn't run the election process. States and cities and communities all across the country, they're the ones who set up the voting systems and the voting booths. And if Mr. Trump is suggesting that there is a conspiracy theory that is being propagated across the country.
Bradley, I know some people would like to say that this is true. You've been around this game a long, long time. As the president alluded to, we have county boards, we have voter rolls, we have local boards, we have machines, we have paper ballots and all this. Isn't this just nonsense?
No, it isn't. But
really?
No, I don't think it is. And remember, let's go. First of all, the president's from Chicago. He seems shocked that he ever heard of a rigged election. He came out of a city that is famous for it. But look, go back to 2000 in Florida. There were some irregularities in Florida, and they don't have to be very deep in order to be things that can turn an election. So it doesn't have to be massive nationwide fraud. It can be in battleground states and particular counties.
But do you really think there'll be enough? Because let's face it, with what we're looking at here, with these sort of numbers here in the electoral count already for Hillary Clinton, we're looking at a massive amount of fraud that would have to be perpetrated in a number of different cities and towns. And that just seems to be incredulous.
I think there is always a danger in close elections like we've seen in 2000 and in particular states, battleground states like Florida, that it becomes worrisome about voter integrity, especially when there isn't voter IDs or there aren't enough poll watchers. But on the macro sense, I don't think America is in danger of a national rigged election. But I think in pockets, yeah, I think there is a danger of that. If you sway one vote, it's one vote too many.
Let me get to this with what Donald Trump has been saying. A series of court rulings against voter IDs laws in 5 states. We know about this. Newsmax Prime host J.D. Hayworth tells us why Trump's worries should be taken seriously. And he did this on MSNBC on Hardball with Chris Matthews.
There are legitimate concerns that efforts are made, for example, in North Carolina last month, where 3 federal appeals court judges said they could determine the intent of the legislature. I don't know how they can move into clairvoyancy, but they've done so, and that stinks to high heaven. It's partisan and it's wrong.
John Hart, let me get your quick take on this. Do you really believe that an election of this size could be rigged?
No, I don't think it can be rigged. I think JD's right that you should always be vigilant about voter fraud. But for Trump to make an issue of this as a distraction, quite frankly, he needs to be focused on the issues that people care about, the economy, and stop making unforced errors. And every day he spends trying to make the case of a rigged election is a day that's lost in the broader argument that's going to engage independent voters, particularly.
I'm going to ask you both very quickly here because there's a lot of talk. Politico had it today where they talk about 70% of the majority of GOP insiders, whomever they are, saying that Donald Trump should drop out. Okay, here we go. I'm not going to deal with the dropout question here. John Hart, I come to you first, and here's the quick snap. You get 15 seconds. If Donald Trump were to drop out, whom does the RNC put in as the candidate that can beat Hillary Clinton? Give me one name.
Oh, Tom Coburn, my former boss. I'd love for him to run.
Well, no, wait a minute. You have to come with somebody who actually could be on the ballot. Go with somebody this year, quickly.
Oh, a lot of people. Scott Walker.
Pick one. I'm going to put you on notice here. Pick one.
Paul Ryan.
Paul Ryan. Okay, fair to say. Even though he wasn't actually on the ballot, he wasn't in any of the debates. I get it. Okay, fair. Bradley, to you. 15 seconds.
John Kasich, Ohio, must win.
Why?
Because it's a must-win state, and he's a governor. He was in the race, and I think he's the most appealable across the board to be a consensus candidate.
Fear not, we are not going to put this down in concrete. It is going to be in video, however, for the rest of recordable time, just in case, but we promise we won't mention it again. It's just between us. Bradley Blakeman, John Hart. Gentlemen, thanks so much. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you soon. What does the presidential election and a top 10 list of the jobs most likely to be occupied by psychopaths have in common? Did you think we were really going to go there? Oh, trust me, we're going to go there. It's coming up next right here on The Hard Line.